You've seen the pictures that they found. There's a defect in the distal part of the left tendon.
Right.
And I just measured the tendon, and the tendon is not grossly enlarged. So it looks like something we can collapse down within a relatively short period of time, is my guess. Now I'm going to look at the right tendon and make a comparison with the left.
Okay.
And we'll compare the size of that tendon as well to the left side, and we'll be able to get a little better idea of prognosis at that time as well. So, if you come around this side, you can aim that right at the screen. You can see the area where the defect is right here.
Okay.
Okay, that's just above the fetlock. It's several centimeters long, and I think it's primarily a fiber separation at this time, but we'll certainly confirm that by looking at the other tendon and doing some measurements and what have you. And it's nice and round. We'll come and look at it in the short axis. No problem at all. And what the treatment's going to be designed is just to compress those down, like you and I have talked about before, and then recheck and see what kind of alignment we have through the center. My guess is the prognosis for this tendon is going to be pretty good based on what I see so far. I don't think there'll be any major surprises. An ideal situation for the cold compressive therapy because you've got an injury that creates a hyperemia, in other words, more blood going to the injured area, and there's no increase in the mechanism to return that, so you get the venous congestion that you and I have talked about in the past. And with the venous congestion then, you have a problem with the partial pressure of oxygen and what have you in the blood, and it just retards the healing phase. So in a situation like this, if we can collapse that down, go back and check on measurements and long axis views to see what kind of a fiber pattern we have through that thing, that'll give us an instant prognosis on whether or not this tendon can come back.
Excellent.
After talking with Roy Poole at Texas A&M. I'll do a lot of these, Jeff, later on and throughout the whole tendon and measuring. We talked about the spaces and what have you, and if we go through the virtual scan of this and go back and forth, you can see that this tendon is made up of bright areas surrounded by dark areas. Okay, the tendon's a little on the big side, but it's not grossly enlarged. But look at this area here, this bullseye. Okay, collectively, all of those tend to change the tendon, and if we turn this sideways and pull this out and we cut into this tendon, we're going to see gaps in the tendon fibers. Okay. And you see these, the wrinkles are caused by my unsteady hand, but you see these spaces right here?
Sure.
Well, that forms the bullseye. The white thing is the tendon fascicle, and the dark area is the ring around it. Okay. That is a tendon that has too much fluid in it. And that fluid is from stress and strain of training and the fact that horses stand up all the time. And that's eventually what happens. There have been some reports out that tendons get bigger as they train. Well, I think the reason they get bigger is the same reason why your feet are going to be bigger on Friday than they are on Monday. And that's very common in the population and people. Your feet are smaller at the end, or bigger at the end of the week.
Sure.
You know, because you've got venous congestion. And I think that's collective. A collective thing that happens in these tendons with time. Now, some horses have better circulation than others. This is one reason why We treated a tremendous number of horses with low levels of aspirin in the past because it does help their blood flow and cuts down on the platelet aggregates that we see in watch the television thing where your platelets tumble down the blood vessel before you get a heart attack. Well, horses have the same thing, and they're under repeated trauma all the time, so they have low-grade inflammation, just like people do, and they get aggregation of the blood components. So, at any rate, I think both of these tendons need to go into the cold compression. I don't see much difference in the two, except for that fluid infiltrate that's several millimeters in size on the other tendon. So, looking just at this, anticipating what we're going to see within 4 to 6 weeks' time, I think this tendon has a good prognosis to come back, just based on today's exam.
So just to summarize then again, in terms of the treatment and the timeline, we're looking at treating both tendons with the cold compression therapy.
Correct.
And from a timeline standpoint, he would go for how long before he'd be reevaluated? And
the thing we like to do is we like to look within the first 4 to 6 weeks after treatment, because we're still under an acute thing. We got free radicals and enzymes and all that crap running around inside the tendons. And we really like to see that initial response. If we come back in 30 days' time and I can't see that spot over there, and we search through it on a 3D view, and we can't appreciate much tendon fiber abnormality, then we're back to the races. It's going to take time, and it's going to take increasing the workload with time, just like we've done before, until the tendon is stable at each level of work. And then one day you go back to the races, and the birds sing, and the sun shines, and you're on your way.
And so in a best case scenario with all the proper treatment and time off, are we looking at, say, a calendar year or a year's time? Or
we're probably looking toward the 9 to 10 month thing on this horse.
Okay.
But it's all going to depend on the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Sure.
And that's why I think we ought to, get aggressive with the horse now and use that compressive therapy a couple times, at least a couple times. So Jeff, I think what we've got in this horse is we've got a low-grade tendonitis or a response to training that has gone just a little bit past this animal's ability to hold it. The right tendon that we just looked at has fiber separation similar to the left, out away from that little focal area of fluid accumulation. The fluid accumulation makes some difference between the tendons, but really not much in my estimation, because I think within 4 weeks' time, with the cold compressive therapy, that we're not even going to be able to see that in cross-section, and it won't contribute anything to the size of the tendon because they both measure within 4/10 of a square centimeter. So in 4 to 6 weeks' time, I think that thing is going to be completely collapsed down, and then we can look at it then and get a real true value of what our prognosis is going to be. But I'm looking at this very favorably. One more work, one more race in this horse, we could be having a different discussion.
Hey, Stormy. How you doing, buddy?